Second model is called Basic Interpersonal Communicative Skills model. According to Cummins, basic interpersonal communication skills are language skills needed in social situations. So now this particular model refers to the interaction or the communication that takes place in any social context. It's very simplified interaction, a very simplistic interaction, which basically is according to day-to-day interaction, and it does not require highly demanding or cognitive approaches or processes. Social interactions are usually context embedded, which means that the communication that takes place in a context or in an environment which has shared understanding. A shared understanding means that the members, they share their views and ideas, and the symbolic system is shared by the members of that speech community. So they occur in a meaningful social context, not very demanding cognitively, and language required is not specialized. It's very simple language which takes the communication which takes place only to fulfill basic language functions. According to Becker, basic interpersonal communication skills is said to occur when there are contextual support and props for language delivery. The contextual support means, again, that people who are the participants of that communication, they share their knowledge of language as well as views and cultural beliefs. And face-to-face context embedded. For example, non-verbal support is there, actions with eyes and hands, instant feedback, cues and clues. Cues are the signs and clues are maybe in the form of certain ideas or expressions. Support verbal language. So all these components, they constitute a context embedded environment. So then what we mean by context embedded language is supported by contextual clues in the environment that enable the second language learner make meaning from the spoken and written word. So all these other factors, apart from what is written, what is spoken, the complete aura or the complete environment, that constitutes the contextual embedded language framework. It also a result of students interacting with each other to get interpersonal clues to further construct meaning. A here and now, which means right now, at present approach leads to necessary ingredient if the input is going to be comprehensible. So what is happening at the moment? That is the major focus of this kind of interaction. In the image in front of you, you would see sender and receiver. Basically, these are two important components of any communication process, that you really have to have a sender and a receiver. Sender sends a message to the receiver, and after interpreting and comprehending the message, the sender provides the feedback, and it is the feedback that determines that the meaningful communication has taken place, or the message that has been sent by sender is appropriately and relevantly understood by the receiver. So here you have seen these parameters: past experience, culture, attitudes, values, knowledge, feelings. Again, here past experience, culture. So these constitute the context embedded language, which means that the sender and receiver share these parameters or share these components. So BICS, which is Basic Interpersonal Communication Skills, describes social conversational language used for basically oral communication. Since it's a very simple way of expression, then oral communication is what is more emphasized in this particular module. Communication offers many cues to the listener and is context embedded. Easy comprehension of context embedded social language readily within 2 years. So basically, a child develops this basic skills within 2 years of its exposure to any language, basically first language, even if this is the second language. Examples of this particular module is observing speakers' nonverbal behavior, gestures, observing others' reaction, using voice cues as phrasing, intonation, and stress, observing pictures, concrete objects, and other contextual cues which are present, and asking for statement to be repeated. So these points actually constitute the examples of basic interpersonal communication skills. Now, Cummins proposed two principal continua of second language development in a simple matrix. One is basic interpersonal communication skills, which describes the development of conversational fluency. And the second is CALP, which is communicative academic language proficiency, which describes the use of language in decontextualized context, which is decontextualized means that a context which is very specific and where you do not have lots of clues and cues available to facilitate you or facilitate your communication. That's why it is referred to the academic context, where the emphasis is on textbooks or materials related to any technical material or related to courses or books. So that is the decontextualization of a context. Cummins proposed that BICS is characterized as follows. However, it is clear that not all aspects of language proficiency are related to cognitive and literary skills. For example, with the exception of severely retarded and autistic children, everybody acquires basic interpersonal. So, not all aspects of language proficiency are cognitive based or literary skills based, because you have the exception in the form of mentally challenged children or severely retarded children. So everybody requires, but regardless of these, the basic skills can be required by everybody in first language, regardless of IQ or academic aptitude. It says that, as Chomsky has pointed out, the phonological, syntactical, and lexical skills necessary to function in everyday interpersonal contexts are universal. So these skills are universal, and Cummins also reinforced this. Here are individual differences in ways in which native speakers manifest these linguistic skills in an interpersonal. So basically, although these are universal, but in the form of the presentation or representation of these skills in the first language or native speaker, that is different, because oral fluency, but for the most part, these differences are not strongly related to cognitive or academic. So he admits that the differences are there, which manifest the interpersonal communicative context, but they are not strongly related to cognitive or academic performance. So still, as the model states, is the basic of the communication that is what is emphasized here. To conclude, basic interpersonal communication skills refers to the basic language ability required for face-to-face communication, where linguistic interactions are embedded in a situational context called context-embedded language.